all that God created us to be. We do read in the Genesis account of creation that humanity was created in perfect union with God. There was no sin, therefore there was no separation between God's creation and himself. And that is to say, our first parents, Adam and Eve, were the only ones who could say before the fall, with integrity, we are exactly what God created us to be. In fact, this kind of cracks me up when I hear people say that conservative Christianity is anti-sexual, that we somehow have a prohibitive attitude about the sexual experience. Actually, we worship the God who is the author of human sexuality, and we read in Scripture that when he had created all that was created, including Adam and Eve in their unashamed nakedness, the Hebrew wording in the text is very strong. He said, that's good, very good, and that he almost applauded like, yes, this is great, it's good. And it must have been. Perfect environment, perfect bodies. You imagine not having to suck your gut in when you take your shirt off? Just, hello, Eve. Give all that up for an apple, go figure. So unfortunately for all of us, what happened in Eden stayed in Eden. When humanity disobeyed, and thereby sin entered into the environment, what God said to his creation, which many people call the curse, as if it were a punishment, seems to me like it was more an explanation of what life is going to be like now, when he said, in essence, all right, now you are going to experience things I never meant you to experience. Your body is going to decay. You are going to die. The earth at times is going to be adversarial to you. You're going to have power struggles in your relationships. This is not what I intended, but because of your disobedience and its corrupting impact on you and in fact on the earth itself, this is what will be. You will experience shortcomings, tendencies, weaknesses, and passions that you were never meant to experience. So we could say in general that any sinful tendency, homosexuality included, is a result of fallen nature. Now that raises the question, well, why then do some people experience passions or desires that the rest of us do not? There are, after all, some sinful tendencies I think we all can relate to. Selfishness, bitterness, envy. Those are pretty universal. Then there are tendencies that only a minority experience. Now, that leads then to theories of origin on homosexuality. What is it in this life then that causes male homosexuality? I'd like to look at a couple of the prevalent theories on the development of homosexuality. As we do so, let me point out that where the Bible is adamant, we must be adamant as well. We can thereby be adamant where Scripture is clear. Where Scripture clearly defines something and condemns it, we must do the same. Where Scripture is not clear, I suggest we hold our theories loosely. Scripture does not tell us why in every case a man becomes sexually attracted to the same sex. That leads us then to human-developed theories on the origins of homosexuality. And human-developed theories are much like bathing suits. One size definitely does not fit all people. And we don't want to try to shove everybody into the same size bathing suit. So for that reason, I'd suggest we approach the subject with a respect for its complexity and with all due humility. With that in mind, then, let's look at both the inborn theory and the developmental theory, the two prevalent theories on the origins of homosexuality. Inborn theorists propose that homosexuality is genetic or biological in origin, and many assume, therefore, it is natural and God-ordained. Now, the idea of people being born homosexual is relatively new. It has been suggested for decades, but only picked up popularity in the early 1990s. Many of you will remember in the fall of 1991, a number of studies were reported to the public. One by Dr. Simon LeVay, a neuroscientist at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, who had done research on the hypothalamus and found a difference in the brain structures between homosexual and heterosexual men. Doctors Pollard and Bailey in Northern California did studies on twins who had a homosexual co-twin. Dr. Dean Hamer, a geneticist, released reports that he had possibly isolated a gay gene. Now, in fairness to all of these researchers, none of them said, "Eureka! We have proven that homosexuality is inborn." Actually, their reporting on their own research was relatively cautious, but at that time the media picked up the studies, and you may remember when they were splashed across front pages and on magazine covers, and news stories were reporting on them. And in essence, the public was being told homosexuality seems to have been proven to be inborn. And in the subsequent years, many similar studies have been released, usually with a good deal of fanfare, and they have been repeated so often, that is to say, their results have been repeated so often, that through sheer repetition, many people have come to assume that it has been proven that homosexuality is inborn. Now, the upside of these particular theories is that they do take into account the role that the body plays in our desires, in our personality structure, in the way we relate and express ourselves. We are, after all, triune beings. We are physical, we are emotional, we are spiritual. So certainly the way we are constructed will, to some extent, play into our desires and the decisions we make later in life. There are some downsides, though, to the inborn theories. First, inborn theories have not been successfully replicated. That is to say, research that has been conducted in one environment yielding a certain result has not then been translated into another environment where it yielded the same result. Therefore, it has not been replicated, which would, of course, prove that the conclusions reached are in fact valid. Secondly, inborn theories are not, contrary to many's opinion, they are not universally accepted in the medical or the psychiatric community. Actually, among both scientists and doctors, and even among psychologists, there seems to be a consensus growing that there are probably many factors that contribute to the development of homosexuality, almost as though there is a constellation of influences, physical, psychological, environmental, perhaps even issues of free will and determination. Just for example, Dr. Francis Collins, a geneticist, has reported evidence indicates sexual orientation may be genetically influenced but not hardwired by DNA. Whatever genes are involved represent predispositions, not predeterminations. Well, I'll buy that. It may be that many of us are born with a personality structure that makes us more susceptible to certain behaviors later in life. It does not mean we inevitably will